Welcome to part 3 of my complete Blender beginner tutorial series. So this is part 3, and in this part we're finally going to get started with the modeling. So we're going to be modeling the house for the finished scene. So I'm going to be going very slowly and showing you every button that I'm pressing. And remember, you can also look down here. My screencast keys will be right down here so you can see what buttons I'm pressing. So let's just start off by modeling this house. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just delete everything because I don't want any of it. So I'm going to press A, and A is going to select all the objects. You can see they have that yellow and orange outline. That means they're selected. Then I want to delete them, so you can either press the delete button or you can also press the X button and then click on delete. Now I want to add a new object because I need an object to start modeling the house. So I will press Shift A. You can also go to the Add menu, but again, I think learning the shortcut keys is really important because later on it's really going to speed up your workflow. So I'm going to press Shift A. And I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to add a cube. Now, we already had a cube, but I just thought I'd add another one because I wanted to show you guys how to add objects. It's kind of a funny thing with the Blender community, how we always have to delete the default cube. If you haven't seen it in the Blender community already, it's kind of a funny thing that goes around where we always delete the default cube and then just add another cube. So anyways, so there we go. The second cube is always better than the first. All right, so to zoom in, I can use my scroll wheel and just zoom in like that. And then we are going to go into edit mode and start editing the cube. So to go into edit mode, you press the tab key. You can also go right up here from object mode and go right over to edit mode. And you can see there's a bunch of different modes here. We're going to be going over some of these, but some of these we won't be using in the tutorial series. So the main one that you use is edit mode. Sculpt mode is for when you're doing digital sculpting, and then vertex paint and weight painting. Those are some other things. We are going to be using weight painting later in the tutorial series. And also texture painting is when you want to paint a texture onto your object. So let's just go over to edit mode or press tab. You can press tab to go into edit mode and then tab again to go back to object mode. So we'll tab into edit mode. I like to say that, tab into edit mode. And you can see that now we're in the object's edit mode. And you can see if you select, and remember I use the right click select, but you're probably using the left click select. I would recommend that you use that. So if you just select these different vertices here, you can see it's selecting the different sides of the cube. So these little dots right here on the different sides of the cube are called vertices. So you can see I can select them. I can also hold down Shift and then select multiple ones. And then I'm going to click with my middle mouse wheel, move around. And then I can also hold down Shift, select more ones. And you can see when I select two vertices that are right next to each other, not only do the vertices get yellow and then white, but also the line going in between them also gets yellow. So let me just zoom in here. You can kind of see it right there. So it's yellow, and then there's a yellow line in between them. Now, if I hold down Shift and continue to click on these other two, you can see that now it's selected the entire face because I've selected all the vertices around the face. And you can actually choose to just select the face or just select the edge. You can see right up here, there is a vertice select or a vertex select. If you select one vertice, it's vertex, or if you're selecting multiple vertices, it's vertices. So vertex and vertices. So there's a vertex select, you can click on this, and this is edge select. So if you click on this, then when you try to select things, it's only going to select the edges. So you can see here, just selecting the edges, but you can't really select the vertices. But if you hold down the Shift key, you could select all these and then it's going to select the face. You could also click right up here and go to the face select. And this way you can only select faces. And then again, you can hold down the Shift key if you wanted to select multiple faces. And then the A key to deselect and the A key to select all of them. So if you want to select the entire mesh in edit mode, it's still going to use the A key, just like in object mode. Now there are actually shortcut keys to selecting these different selections. 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is going to be the vertex select, 2 is going to be edge select, and 3 is going to be face select. Now, as I talked about in an earlier video, if you don't have a numpad, you can use the top numbers instead of the numpad for the 1 for front view, 3 for side view, and 7 for top view, and those are really important for moving around. But if you've set it up in Blender so that the top numbers are now being used for the moving around the view, then this isn't going to work. So because I have a numpad, I'm using 1, 3, and 7 on the number pad to move around, but then the numbers on the top of the keyboard, I use 1, 2, and 3 for going to vertex select, edge select and face select. So just know that if you don't have a numpad and you set that up earlier in the tutorial series, then these aren't going to work. So you'll just have to manually click on the vertex select, edge select, or face select. All right, so what I'm gonna do is press 1 to go to front view, and you can see this is gonna be the front of the house. And the house model is the same on either side, so what I wanna do is actually cut the house in half and then use a modifier to mirror it over. So how I'm going to cut this cube in half is by adding a loop cut. So to add a loop cut, I'm going to press Control R. And you can see that when I move my mouse around, it's going to show these little yellow lines. And I want to cut it up and down. So I'm going to click when the yellow line is right there going up and down. And then you can see that after you click, it's going to edge slide it around. So it's asking you where you want to put it. Do you want to put it in the middle? Do you want to put it on the side over here? I want it to be exactly in the middle. So I'm going to right click and then it will drop back into the center. And if I click now with my middle mouse wheel and move up, you can see that it's cut all around here. If I go click on 1 to go to vertex select, you can see it's added in more vertices and basically made a cut through the center of the cube. So now what I want to do is I want to delete half of it and then mirror it over. So to do that, I'm going to click with my middle mouse wheel, move over here so that I can see all these vertices, and I'm going to select this vertice, hold down the shift key and select the other points. And you can see that now that's selected. What you could also do is press 3 or go to the face select and then just select this face. Then what I'm going to do is press X or the delete key, and you can see that this comes up and it's basically asking you what you want to delete. And I want to delete the vertices, so I'm going to select that, because if you delete faces, it's only going to delete that face, but it's not going to delete the vertices around it. So X, and I'm going to delete vertices, and now you can see half of the cube is deleted. So now what I'm going to do is tab back into object mode, or just go into object mode right here. And now half of the cube is deleted. So I want to add a modifier to mirror it over to the other side. So to do that, I'm going to go right down here to this wrench here, and this is going to go to the modifiers panel. I'm going to click on add modifier, and I'm going to go down here and click on the mirror modifier. And when I click on this, you can see that now it's mirroring it over to the other side, and it looks like we didn't do anything. So I'm going to tab back into edit mode, but you can see if I press A to select everything, you can click with your middle mouse wheel, move around, and you can see that it's mirroring it over to the other side. So we can only edit this side, but when we edit this side, the other side is going to change. So if I press 1 to go to vertex select and just select a vertice and then press G to grab it, you can see that it's now mirroring it. So whatever we do on this side, it's going to do it for the other side. So I'm just going to right click to undo that action. Now, if I select everything with A, I'm going to have to tap A twice to deselect everything and then select everything. Then if I press G to grab, you can see that it's not actually connected with itself. So to connect it with itself, I'm just going to press escape or right click. And you can see that right down here, if I just make this a little bit bigger, this mirror modifier, it has this clipping. If I turn this clipping on by check marking it, now when I press G to grab and I pull this out, you can see that now it's connected. So those two sides that are connecting in between the mirror, it's stuck them together. And now when I press G and try to pull it out, it's going to be connected together. So I'll just right click to undo that action. So now what I can do is start to model the house. So the house has a pointy roof. So what I want to do is select this and then hold down the shift key and select this. So these two vertices are selected. I'm going to press 1 on the number pad to go to front view, and then I'm going to press G to grab, and I want to bring it up on the Z axis because I want to bring it up. So I'm going to press Z. You can also click with your middle mouse wheel, and that's actually quicker. So let me just show that again. G to grab, click with my middle mouse wheel, bring it up and then let go. And now you can see it's constraining it to the Z axis. Just bring it up however far you want, and then just click to place that. And now you can see it's just starting to look more like a house. So now what I want to do is bring the whole thing down because right now it's too high up. So what I can do is press 1 to go to front view, and I'm going to introduce you to a new type of view when you're in edit mode or object mode. What you do is you press Z, and then you can see that this pie menu comes up. So right now we're in solid mode and I'm holding down the Z key, but there's also rendered mode, material preview mode, and wireframe mode. So what you can do is you can move your mouse over. What I'm going to do is move my mouse over to wireframe and then let go of the Z key. And you can see if I just click with my middle mouse wheel, move it around, you can see we're in a wireframe preview and we can see through the mesh. Another way to get to this is wireframe right here. If you click on this, we're back to the solid view. So this one is solid view. If you click on this one is wireframe. And then if you click on this one is material preview. And it's just going to be white because right now we haven't given it a material, so it's just white. And then this last one here is the rendered view. So if I click on this, you can see that it's starting to actually render out what we're seeing. So it's actually doing a render in our view. And you can see that it's just gray right now, and that's because the entire world is gray and there's no light, so everything is just gray. So I'm going to go back to wireframe, or remember you can press Z, move your mouse over, and then let go. So a quick way to do this is just like tap Z as you're moving your mouse this way, and it's going to go into that view. You can also go Z and move your mouse down to go into material preview, Z and move your mouse up to go into rendered, and then Z and move your mouse over and go into solid. So Z, wireframe, just select this. And now I'm going to press 1 to go to front view. Now why I'm doing this, why I'm going into wireframe mode is because I want to select all of this top area. And if I'm in solid mode, I'm just going to press Z and move over. If I now click and drag to select all the vertices, and then I move with my middle mouse wheel and move over, you can see that it's only selected the vertices that were in the very front. But if I go into wireframe and do this, so if I press Z and move my mouse over, go into wireframe and then do that again. So click and drag to do the box select. Another way to get to the box select is by pressing B and then dragging and then letting go. That's another way to use the box select. Now if I click and drag with my middle mouse wheel, click and move over, you can see that now it's selected everything behind it. So basically the wireframe is sort of like an X-ray mode, and you can select everything, even things that are overlapping and behind another object. Whereas in solid mode, if I just A to deselect that, B box select, and then select this, you can see that it's only selecting what's in the very front. So again, I'm going to press Z, move my mouse over, go into wireframe. You can press B for the box select, click and drag, and select everything. And now if I click with my middle mouse, move over, everything's selected. So I'm going to press 1, go to front view. Now I want to move the house down because it's too high up. So I'm going to press G to grab, and then I don't want it to be moving all around. I only want it to move straight down. So I can press Z or click with my middle mouse wheel and then let go once it's only constraining to the Z axis. So now I'm just going to move it down, something about like this. Unless you want your house to be a 2-story house or something, you could make it taller. I'm just going to make it about here, and then I'm just going to click to place that. Now, if I press Z and go back into solid view, I can click with my middle mouse, move out, and then tab back into object mode using the tab button. And you can see that now our house is the proper height, and it looks a lot more like a house. So I think now is a good time to save this project. So to save this, I'm going to go File and click on Save. And when you do that, it's going to bring up a file browser, and you're just going to need to go to somewhere on your computer where you want to save your file. So I'm just going to go into part 3 because I'm making this tutorial. I have different folders for the different parts. I'm just going to go into that folder. Just find somewhere on your computer where you want to save your project file. And then it has a name here. I'm going to call this house, and then enter. And if I click on enter, it's going to save it as house.blend. A .blend file is a Blender file. That is the file name. So just name it house and it'll save as a .blend, and then just click on save Blender file. Now, if you want to very quickly save while you're working, the shortcut key is Control S. You can see if I go file right here, it shows the shortcut key is Control S. So I would recommend just getting into the habit of pressing Control S pretty frequently, because if Blender crashes and you lose some work, that would be pretty frustrating. So while I'm working, I just every now and then press Control S, and then I know that it's saved. You can see it gives me a little box there and it says saved house.blend. So that's a really good habit to get into by pressing Control S. All right, so now I want to cut out a door in our house, and I want it to be on the front right in the center there. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, and what I want to do is add loop cuts and then cut out a face right in here. So to do that, I'm just going to scroll to zoom in, and I'm going to press Control R. Control R is going to add a loop cut, and you can see I have a few different options here. I want it to be right up here. So I'm going to click to place the loop cut, and then it's going to ask me where I want to put it. So I want this part right here to be about half of a door size. So if I just move my mouse, make that about half the size of a door, and then just click to place that. And there we go. So now I need to tell it how high I want the door to be, and then I can cut out that face. So I can press Control R, and I want to add a loop cut right in here because I want the door to end like this high. So I'm going to click and then drag down, and you can see that it's a little bit slanted, but I'm going to show you how to fix this. So just drag it down to about the size that you want the door to be, something probably like that. Okay, click right there to place it. And you can see that if I click with my middle mouse wheel and move around, that it's kind of slanted here. So what it did when we added the loop cut is it made the value right in between this angle and this angle. So you can see this angle is kind of pointed up, and this angle is very straight, and this angle is right in the middle. So how we fix this, it's pretty easy to fix this. I'm going to press S to scale, and I can actually scale the vertices. You can also press R to rotate, S to scale, and G to grab, just like what we talked about at the first part. So I'm going to press S to scale, and then I only want to scale it up and down because I want to make it flat. So I'm going to press Z, and then that way it's only going to be scaled on the Z axis. And I could just scale it down really small, but I want to make it exactly perfectly flat. So to squash it down and make it perfectly flat, I can actually type in a value number. So I'm going to type 0 and then enter. So when you're scaling things, rotating things, or grabbing things, like you can grab this and then type in like 3, you can see it's going to move it by 3. I'm just going to escape out of that. If I press R, I can rotate this. Maybe I want to rotate it by 45 degrees. After I press R, I can type in 45, and you can see that now it's rotated by 45 degrees. I'm just going to press Control Z to undo that now. All right, so now if I press 1 to go to side view, you can see that this is perfectly straight, just like this one. So now I want to delete this, and it's going to delete here, and that's also going to delete the mirror on the other side. So to do this, I'm going to press 3 or click right up here to go to face select. I'm going to just select this face right here, and then I'll press X, and then I'm going to delete faces. I don't want to delete vertices, because if I delete vertices, you can see that it's going to delete all the vertices around it. You can see that if I press 1, you can see it's going to also delete all those vertices. I don't want it to do that. I just want it to delete the face. So I can press X and just delete faces. So let's just tab back into object mode, move around. You can see how it's looking. Okay, pretty good. And if we want to make it bigger, we can. I'm just going to press Control S to save our project again. Okay, now I think I want the door to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to press 1 to go to front view, tab into edit mode. And I want to basically select these loops and pull them up so that the door is a little bit bigger. So to do this, I'm going to press 1 or click on the vertex select. And then to select this entire loop, what you could do is just manually hold down the shift key and just select all these loops, and then click with my middle mouse, move around, hold down the shift key, and then select that. So you could do that, but an easier way to do this is to hold down the Alt key and then select. And you can see that when you do that, it's going to select the edge, the entire edge. So when I hold down Alt, click on this, it's going to select all of this. And for some reason it didn't select this one, but that's okay. Just hold down the shift key and click on this. So now we have this entire loop selected. So now what I want to do is I want to bring this up so that the door is higher. So I'm going to press G and then Z, or just click with my middle mouse and then move it up and then just click to place that. Okay, so now I want to make the door just a little bit longer out this way. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click right here, and that's going to select the entire thing. You can see that if I click with my middle mouse, move around, you can see it's selecting the entire thing. And then the problem with this is if I press G and then click with my middle mouse and pull this out, you can see that now it's kind of making like a barn look, like it's kind of cutting over on the top of it, and I don't want it to do that. What I want to do is just have this go all the way down so that this is still perfectly straight from here to here. So how I do this is by using an edge slide. So you can actually slide the vertices on their edge. So to do that, you double tap G. And if I double tap G, look at that. You can see that the edge is now sliding along. So I can just move it to however big I want the door to be. You can make a really big door. I'm just going to make a door about that size and then just click to place that. And you can see that now this is still perfectly straight all the way down to here. All right, so now what I want to do is make a window. I want to make a window here, and then I also decided that I want to make a window right over here. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I don't want a window to be right here. If you want to, you can, but I actually don't. And so I'm going to apply the mirror modifier. So to apply this, in an earlier Blender version, it did have an apply button, but in a newer update, it doesn't have the apply button. So what you do is you hold your mouse over the modifier and you press Ctrl A. Now you can see that when I press Ctrl A, nothing's happening. And that's because we're in edit mode. So when you're in edit mode, you can't actually apply modifiers. So what I have to do is tab or go right over here and go back into object mode. And now I can move my mouse over the mirror modifier and press Ctrl A, and that's going to apply the modifier. Now if I click tab, go back into edit mode, you can see I can double tap A and select everything, and you can see that now our house has actual vertices on all the sides. So now I can go ahead and add my windows. So to add my windows, it's going to be just like how I added the door. So I'm going to add loop cuts and then delete the face inside where the window is. So I'm going to press Ctrl R and then click right there, bring my mouse over, and I want the side of the window to be about there. So I'm going to click to place that. Then I'll press Ctrl R again, click, bring my mouse down, and I want the ending of the window to be about there. So I'll click to place that. And then I want the top of the window to be about here. So I'll press Ctrl R, click, and then it'll edge slide up, and I will click to place it right about there. And then one more, I want the window to end kind of down here, so I'll press Ctrl R, click, drag down, and then just click to place that again. And then I want to delete this face, so I'm going to press 3 to go to face select. Just select this face and then press X, and I'm going to delete faces. And now if I tab back into object mode, you can see that now we have our window for our house. Let's press Ctrl S again to save our project. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing for the other window over here. So I'm going to click with my middle mouse, move over, and then we'll tab into edit mode. And you can see that because we added loop cuts for this window, it's added loop cuts all the way around. So we don't have to add any more loop cuts for the up and down. We just have to add more loop cuts for the left and right. So I'm going to press Ctrl R, click right there, bring it back. And I want the starting of the window to be about there. So just click to place that, Ctrl R again, click to place that, edge slide it over to however big you want the window to be, about there. So I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to press 3 to go to the face select. Another way that you can do this actually, I'm going to show you, is by pressing 1 to go to the vertex select. And then you can just select the first vertice, hold down the shift key, and then select all the other vertices, and then press X. But then you can just tell it to delete the face, and now it's just going to delete the face that's inside those vertices. So there we go. Tab into object mode, or just go right here and go into object mode, and you can see now we have a house with a door and 2 windows. So now let's go ahead and make a roof for our house. So what I'm going to do is tab into edit mode again, and I want to select the entire top of the house, and I'm going to actually duplicate that and then make it thicker so that we have the top of the house. So what I'm going to do is press 1 to go to front view, and press Z and move my mouse over, go into wireframe, let go, and then I just want us to select this top area. So you can do a box select or just click and drag and select this entire top area. I'm going to show you a different type of selection. So I'm going to press A to deselect that. What you can do is you can press the C key, and that's going to bring up a circle select. C is for circle. Then what you can do is you can scroll with your middle mouse and you can make the selection bigger or smaller. Then wherever you click and drag, it's going to just select whatever is in the circle. And then if you want to deselect an area, you hold down your middle mouse as you drag, and it's going to deselect whatever in the circle. So I'm just going to click and drag, select all of that. And then to get out of this, you can right click or press escape. And now if I click with my middle mouse, move over, you can see that just the top of the house is selected. So now I'll press Z and go back into solid view. And now what I want to do is actually duplicate this up, and then I want to make it its own object. So the shortcut key for duplicating something is Shift D, and this will work in edit mode and it will also work in object mode. So if you want to duplicate an object, let me just tab back into object mode. You can press Shift D, and then it's going to automatically go into the grab mode, and you can just move this over, click, and you can see that now we've duplicated the house. So I'm just going to press X and delete it. So I'm going to select the house again, press tab to go into edit mode, and you can see this is still selected. So I'm going to press Shift D, and you can see that it duplicates the top of the house. And I'm going to press Z, and Z is going to move it up, and then I'm just going to click to place that. Now I want to make this a separate object just so that it's a little bit easier to work with. So to separate this into its own object, the shortcut key is P. So you press P and then you click on whatever you want to separate. So you could separate by the material, by loose parts, but I want to use the selection because whatever is selected, I want that to be a separate object. So just click on selection right there. And now if I tab back into object mode and click on this, you can see that now it's its own object. So now what I can do is press 1 to go to front view, and you can't see it right now. That's because it's 0 thickness. So I'm going to press Z and move my mouse over, let go into wireframe. There it is. I'm going to press G and Z, bring it down, and I'm just going to bring it down right inside the house. And then I'll tab to go into edit mode. Now you can see here that there's a lot of extra vertices here. There's all these different loops that we don't really want. So what I'm going to do is get rid of these. So an easy way to get rid of these is to hold down the Alt key and then select a loop. And then I want to edge slide this into another loop. So I can double tap the G key, bring this down, and then just click. And now it's just pushed it into the other loop. Now these two loops are on top of each other because you can see if I press G to grab, it's just stuck on top of each other. So to get rid of this, I can double tap A and then I can press M, and M is a shortcut key for merge. And I'm going to merge by distance. And what that will do is any vertices that are on top of each other, it'll merge them together. So if I click on by distance, you can see it says removed 4 vertices. So now if I just click on this, and then press G to move, to grab, you can see there's not any vertices on top of each other. So I'm just going to do that for the rest of them. So I'm going to Alt select this, and then I can double tap G, move over, and then click to place that. Alt select this, double tap G, move it up, and then click to place that. And then let me just click with middle mouse, move over. Gonna hold down the Alt key, select this loop, double tap G, and you can just move it either up or down, whatever you want to do. Click to place that, and it looks good, but if I just click and grab this, you can see there's a bunch of vertices on top of each other, and that's not good. So double tap A to select everything, and then press M, and we're going to merge by distance. And you can see now it says remove 12 vertices. So if I click on this and press G, you can see that now it looks a lot better. Now we still have a few extra loops right here and right here, so I'll just get rid of those real quick. So Alt select this, double tap G, move it over, click, Alt, select this loop, double tap G, move it over, and then click. And then again, we'll double tap A to select everything, M for merge, and then click on by distance. And now it's going to remove those 6 vertices. All right, so the topology looks a lot better now because we don't have any of those extra loops right in there. So I'm going to press 1 now to go to front view. And now I will press G and Z. And we'll just bring this down and just bring it just slightly inside the house. Then I'll press S to scale. I'm going to zoom in with my middle mouse, S to scale, and just bring it out just a little bit. Bring it out until there's just a little bit of the roof coming down, however much you want. And then it's come out now, so I'm going to press G and then Z, bring it down. And then whenever you're doing an action in Blender, like moving this, if you want the movement to be a lot more sensitive, while you're moving this, you can hold down the Shift key. And you can see when I'm moving this, I'm not holding down the Shift key. Now I hold down the Shift key, and you can see that the movement is a lot more sensitive. So I have to move my mouse a lot more. And this is super useful if you're trying to get something like really close. So I'll just click now and place that. And now if I click and move out, you can see there is our roof. Now the top of the house is coming through the roof, so I want to give that roof a little bit of thickness. So to do this, I'm going to show you how to do an extrude. So an extrude is basically taking whatever's selected and extruding it out and making it thicker. So what you do with this whole thing selected is you press the E key. So E is for extrude. And now you can see that when I extrude that, I'm just going to bring it up, and you can see that now it's giving that some thickness. So I'm just going to move that just a little bit up, just make it however thick you want the roof to be, about there, and then I'm going to click to place that. And now you can see that it's extruded that up and given that roof some thickness. So let's tab back into object mode, and I'm going to press Ctrl S to save our project. All right, let's keep working on the house here. So what I want to do now is I want to make a little chimney coming up right here. So if you remember in a previous video, I talked about how this 3D cursor here, wherever this is, an object is going to appear when you add it. So what I can do is actually click, to put the 3D cursor right about here because that's where I want the chimney to be. And if you're using the left click select, then you're going to hold down the shift key and right click to place the 3D cursor. But I'm using right click, so I'm just going to left click to place the 3D cursor right about there. And you can see it'll just hop onto the top of our roof there. And now I can press Shift A, and the closest thing to a chimney would be a cube. So I'm going to select the cube, and it adds a giant cube right there. Now the cube is way too big, so I'll press S and then just bring it down. We'll scale it down. Just scale it to the size that you want, something that looks good for a chimney, right about there. Okay, I'll just click to place that. And now I'm going to tab into edit mode, and we want to scale our chimney up because right now it's way too small. So I will press 1 to go to front view, Z and move my mouse over, and you can go into wireframes, that way you can see the entire thing. And then I will press S and then Z, or just click with middle mouse and then just scale that up to the size that you want. And I'm not going to scale it all the way up because it's coming through the house. So once I scale it up, I will just move it up. So I'm just going to scale it up to the size that I want, something like that. Just click to place that. And then I can press G to grab and then click with middle mouse and just bring it up. Make sure it's not going through the roof. So just something like that. And then click to place that. So now if I tab into object mode, Z to move my mouse over, and then click and look around, you can see there is the chimney for our house. Now the chimney doesn't have an inside, so I want to actually cut in there so that the chimney is hollow inside. So I'm going to tab to go back into edit mode, and I'm going to press 3 to go to the face select. I'm going to select this face, and I don't want to delete it because if I just click on X and delete faces, now there's no thickness there, and that's not really realistic. There would be some thickness in between that. So I'm now going to introduce you to the inset feature. So I can actually make a face within a face, and then we can extrude that face down into the chimney. So to make an inset, you press I. So I is for inset, and you can see what it's doing is it's basically making a face inside that face. So I can just bring it down. I don't want it to be too small, just something like that, and then click. And now what I can do is I can extrude that into the chimney. So if you remember the extrude shortcut key, it's E for extrude, and then I'm just going to bring this way down, and you can see it's already put it on the Z axis, so that's what we want. You can also press Z, bring it down, and then just click to place that. Now we're not really going to be looking in there, so as long as it's just down a little bit, that's fine. I'm just going to leave it there for now. So now I'll tab back into object mode, and there we go. We have a nice little chimney. Alright, now I want to make a structure for the house, and so I want to just add a cube and make it really small, just kind of scale it down and just put it on the bottom here, just so the house kind of has like a cement thing that it's kind of sitting on. So what I want to do is I want to add a cube right in the very center of our scene here, but putting the 3D cursor right back in the center there, if I try to like click and place that, you can see it's just going to place it on the center there, and we could zoom into the house and kind of try to click right there and place it, but you can see now it's off. What you can do to center the 3D cursor right back into the very center of the world is to press Shift C. So when you press Shift C, not only does it center this 3D cursor into the center of the world, but it also zooms out to show you everything that's in your scene. So Shift C. Now what I can do is press Shift A, and I'm going to search for a mesh and click on cube. Now you can see there's some really weird glitches here when I move around, and this is because this cube and the house are exactly at the same location. So both of the faces are at the same exact location, and they're going through each other. So to fix this, I'll just slightly scale this up by pressing S, just scale it up a tiny bit and then click right there. So now what I want to do is flatten this down. So I'll press S and then click with my middle mouse. And if you're having trouble like I am, you can just press Z and then just bring it down. Okay, so I'm just going to make a kind of a structure for the house. Click right there, just like that. And then I'll press G to grab, click middle mouse, bring it down on the Z axis, and then just click to place it right there. So I think I want it to be a little bit bigger actually. So I will press S to scale, just scale it up a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So now we have just a basic structure for our house to kind of sit on, kind of like a floor for our house. So this is really starting to look like a house now. I do want to model the door frames, the door, and then also the window frames, and then also a handle for the door. So what I'll do is actually use the shape of the door to make the door frame. So I'm going to select the house, tab into edit mode, just zoom in here, and then what I'm going to do is hold down the shift key and click with my middle mouse, and that way I can pan so I can look down at the house, zoom in here. I'm going to press 1 to go to the vertex select, and I want to select this entire loop. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, click right in here, just somewhere. It's going to select the entire loop. Now what I want to do is duplicate it and make it its own object. So I'll press Shift D, and then I just want to bring it back right to its default position. So I'm going to right click and it'll hop it right back there. Now I want to make it its own object. So I'll press P and separate that by selection. So if I tab back into object mode now, just select this. That's the wrong one. There we go. And then tab into edit mode. You can see now it's just selecting that right there. So I'm going to select everything with A, and I want to make the door frame a little bit bigger. So I'll press S to scale, just scale that up a little bit. And you can see that it's scaling it up, but it's not really scaling it up even. So the top is scaled a lot more than the sides. So I'll just scale it up a little bit, click, and then I'll press S and X and scale that out a little bit. And then click to place that. Okay, so now I want to give that some thickness and then extrude it in. So I first want to bring it back. So I'll press G and then click middle mouse, bring it out like that. And then I'll press E to extrude. And I'm going to extrude this out. And I'm going to press Y because I want to bring it out forward. And I'll just bring it out like that. And then just click to place it. So now it has some thickness right in there. And now I want to extrude this in so that it's kind of like a square piece of wood kind of going around the door. So I'm going to double tap A to make sure that entire thing is selected. And I can press E to extrude. And you can see it is extruding it, but I don't want it to extrude it. I want to extrude it and then scale it down. So right after I press E, I will immediately press S. And that's going to scale what we've extruded. So I can scale it down and then click. Now you can see when I do this, what it's going to do is it's going to scale it and actually make this thinner than the outer side. So if I just go right over here, you can see that this right here is actually thinner than this because we scaled it all the way and it just scaled it in. So I'm going to press Control Z to undo that. I'm going to press E to extrude again, S, and then I don't want to extrude it on the Y-axis because I don't want to squish it down, but I do want to scale it up and down. So to do this, I can press Shift Y, and Shift Y will tell it we're not going to use the Y, we're only going to use the Z and the X. And now you can see it's giving us those two lines there, so the X and the Z, and it's just going to scale it down on those two axes. So I can scale it down, not too big, just something like that. Make sure it's going through the house though, all the way through, and then click to place that. So if I middle click, look around, you can see this here is a lot thinner than this up here. So I can press S and Z, just bring that up a little bit, and then click, and now I can tab back into object mode, and there we go. So we now have the frame for our house. And you can see the frame is coming through here, but we're going to be adding a ground plane, so I don't really care if that's coming through. We're not going to be able to see it. Now you may have noticed something, and that is the shading is looking a little bit weird because you can see this face right up here. It's kind of white and it's kind of reflecting. This is actually called a matte cap. But you can see right here, this is kind of dark and then this is kind of light. If you click on this, you can see the different matte caps. If you click on this here, I've actually added in my own matte caps and I've actually made my own. If you want to learn how to make your own matte caps, I made a tutorial on that. I'll leave a link in the description. You can learn how to make your own matte caps if you want. But you can see, yeah, matte caps are these kind of previews and it'll preview the mesh for you. So there's studio, there's flat, and there's also matte cap. And you can change the colors, and you can see it's just giving a different type of reflection, and it can help you to better see the shape of the mesh. So I'm just going to change it back to the one that I like to use, this one right here. But back to what I was talking about, this here is really white, and then this here is kind of dark. So what's actually happened is the mesh is actually flipped inside out. If you imagine like a shirt or a sock or something and it's flipped inside out, you can sometimes see the seams, or maybe you can see the tag. And so the mesh is actually flipped inside out. And so we want to flip it back. So it's really easy to flip it back. And how I know that this is flipped inside out is not only because the shading is a little bit weird, but if I click right up here and click on the face orientation, everything outside should be blue and everything inside should be red. So if I zoom in here, you can see the inside of the house is red, and that's good because this cube right here, this is the outside and that's the inside. But you can see that our door frame is red, and if I zoomed into the door frame, it's kind of hard to see. Let me just zoom in here. You can see now it's blue inside there. So I actually want to flip it. So I'm going to click on this, turn off the face orientation. That's a way that you can tell if you're not sure. Click to turn that off. So how to flip this is you tab into edit mode and you press A to select everything. And the shortcut key for flipping this is pressing Shift N, and you can see it says recalculate the normal. So when you hear people talk about flip normals, not flip normals the YouTube channel, but the normals are flipped in your 3D world, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about how the object has been flipped inside out, and so you need to flip it back. And if you click to open this recalculate normals here, you can't see it. There it is, inside. If you click on inside, you can see it's going to flip it. And then if you click on it again, it's going to flip it back to the correct. So that's the shortcut key, Shift N. Okay, so now that same thing, I want to do that for the windows, and then we'll add a door as well. And we'll also add some pieces of glass in the window. So I'm going to select this. I will tab into edit mode again. I'm going to hold down the Alt key, click right here to select this right around here, select the whole window, Shift D to duplicate that. I'm going to right click and that'll bring it back to its original position. I'll press P to separate it because I want it to be its own object, and I'll click on selection. And then if I tab into object mode, select this, and then tab back into edit mode, you can see now it's its own object. So I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'll press period on the number pad and that'll bring me over to this. I'll press S and scale it up so it's a little bit bigger. And then I will press G, click with middle mouse, just bring it out a little bit. And then I can press E to extrude, bring it over, and then click with my middle mouse wheel, bring that out to give that window some thickness, just like that, not too much. And then double tap A to select everything. And I'll press E to extrude it out. And then immediately after that, press S, and that'll scale it in. And then I don't want it to be scaled in from the Y, so I'll press Shift Y, and then it won't be scaled on the Y. And I can just scale it down, just give it however much thickness you want, and then click to place that. And you can see that once again, the normals need to be recalculated. So let me just close this. Double tap A to select everything, and then press Shift N. There we go. Recalculate the normals, and now that looks correct. Okay, let's do the same exact thing for the other one over there. So I'm going to tab into object mode. Let me just save this again. Control S to save. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click with my middle mouse wheel, move over, and then just middle mouse wheel and rotate over. And then hold down the Shift key and middle mouse and move over. And then just zoom in with the middle mouse. Okay, select this, tab into edit mode again, hold down the Alt key. We're just going to select this loop here, press Shift D to duplicate it, and then right click so it jumps back to its original position. We'll press P to separate to make it its own object, and then I'm going to tab into object mode, just select the window right here, tab into edit mode. I'm going to press A to select everything, so that's all selected. We'll press S and scale it out, and then I will press G, click with my middle mouse wheel, just bring it back in a little bit, and then we'll press E and click with my middle mouse, bring it out a little bit. And something that you could also do is select the whole thing, press S and scale it down, and then now it's smaller, now it's inside, and then if I press E and S, we can kind of reverse it, so we'll bring it back out. But this time the window isn't like this, it's over like this. So I want to press Shift X, and that way it'll only scale it on the Y and the Z. So just make whatever thickness you want, and then click. And because we scaled it out instead of in, the normals don't need to be recalculated. Let me just double tap A, press Shift N, and you can see it doesn't do anything. If I click on this, now that looks wrong, and now that looks correct. All right, let's just zoom out here and see our house looking pretty cool. Press Control S again to save that. So now I want to add some pieces of wood, kind of like a plus inside the window, like going like this and like this. So I'm just going to zoom into a window, and then I'm going to click to place the 3D cursor. You can hold down the Shift key and then right click to place the 3D cursor. Press Shift A, and I'm going to add a cube, and then just scale the cube down by pressing S, scale it way down, and then press S and Z, bring that way up, and then you can press G to grab, click with my middle mouse wheel, bring that up, and it's the right size up and down, but it's a little bit too thick right now. Let me just press period on the number pad to zoom into it. So what I want to do is scale it down on the X and Y, but not on the Z. So if I press S to scale, and then I press Shift Z, I'm telling it, don't use the Z, just use the X and Y. Now you can see I can change the thickness value of it. So I'm just going to make it however thick you want, about there, and then click. Okay, now I want to duplicate this and make it going back and forth. So I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, Shift D, and then just right click so it hops right back there. And then I want to rotate it over, so I can press R to rotate. And I want to rotate it exactly side to side. I don't want to just kind of manually rotate it and try to get it close enough. So what I want to do is click with my middle mouse wheel, or if you're having trouble here like I am, just click on the X and then it'll be going sideways. So now that I'm rotating it on the X axis, I want to make it exactly flat. So to make it exactly flat, I know that I just need to rotate it over by 90 degrees. So I will type in 90, enter. And now it's exactly rotated it 90 degrees. So now it's a little bit too small. So I'll press S and Y, bring it up. Okay. Just click to place that. Now, if I zoom in here, you can see that there's this little glitch here, and that's because the two faces are exactly on top of each other, and there's a problem there. So to fix this, I will just press G, and then click with my middle mouse wheel, just bring it back a little bit, and then just click to place it right there. All right, so there we go. Now we have the window frame. So I want to add this on the other one, but we don't actually have to duplicate the entire thing, because that would just take more work. So I'm just going to duplicate it and move it over. So I will click to select this object, hold down the Shift key, click to select this object. I will press 7 to go to top view, 7 on the number pad, that'll go to top view. I'm going to zoom out and I want to duplicate this and bring it over to the other window, which is right here. So I'm going to press Z and go into wireframe, that way we can see the inside of the house. I'll press Shift and then middle click and move over. And before we continue, I did want to talk about orthographic view and non-orthographic view. So you can see when I'm looking around here, this is in perspective. So if I zoom in, this looks very close and this looks far away. If you press 5 on the number pad, that's going to go into orthographic view. And you can see it kind of makes everything look more flat because the size of this is closer to you, so it'd be bigger. And then this down here, it's farther away, so it'd be smaller. If I press 5, that's going to go into orthographic view, and it's going to make everything look really flat. And when I press 1 for front view, 3 for side view, or 7 for top view, it automatically puts us into orthographic view. Now, if for some reason you don't want to be in orthographic view, you can press 5, and that'll go out of orthographic view. But you can see now there's a lot of perspective and it's kind of stretching it out and everything. And when we're rendering, of course, that's what we want. But while we're editing the mesh, it's a lot easier to be in orthographic view because everything is very straight and flat. So that's why when I press 1 or 3 or 7, it kind of makes everything kind of flat, but it makes it a lot easier for editing. All right, so let's press Z and move over to go into wireframe again. I'm going to duplicate this over here. So I'll press Shift D and that's going to duplicate the objects that we had selected. I'll just bring them over right down here. Just click to place them, and then I'll press period on the number pad to zoom in here. Click with my middle mouse, move over, and then we're in wireframe mode, so I'll press Z and move my mouse over, and you can see that now the window frame is right there in the window. Now we need to rotate it over, so I'm going to press R to rotate, and I want to rotate it on the Z axis, so press Z, and now it'll rotate on the Z, and I want to rotate exactly 90 degrees, so type in 90, enter. And there we go. Now this is kind of coming through here. So I'm just going to click to select this and then just press S, click with my middle mouse wheel, bring it on the X and just scale it down so that it's just the size that we need and then click to place that. All right, there we go. So now we have our second window pane. So now what we need to do is make some pieces of glass to put in the windows and also make a door. And then we'll also add a door handle. Also, one more thing before we continue, if I press 1 to go to front view, you can see that there's more space here than there is here. So I'll just select this and press G and then press click with my middle mouse, bring it over and just center that and then place that. Okay, that looks better. All right, so to add the window panes, I could press Shift A and add a plane and then kind of rotate the plane, bring it into place. You don't need to follow me on this. I could just rotate it and, scale it and stick the plane in there. But that is a little bit more work. What we could do is just select the house and then duplicate that window there and then make it its own object and then fill that. So I'm just going to do that instead. You could add a plane if you wanted to, but I'm going to select the house, tab into edit mode here. I'm going to press Z to go into wireframe and I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and select this loop. And then I might as well do this for the other window at the same time. So I'm just going to move over, hold down the Shift key and middle click to go over here. And then this time I'm going to hold down the Shift and Alt key. The Alt key will select the loop and the Shift key will also keep the other one selected. So hold down the Shift and Alt key, select this, and now they're both selected. And then I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, right click so it jumps back to its position. We'll press P to separate by selection and then tab into object mode. Just select this. It's a little bit hard to see because there are a few objects on top of each other, but there it is. I'll tab into edit mode and then I want to press A to select everything. And then I want to actually fill a face inside there. So I'll press Z, move my mouse over into solid view. And then to add a face inside that, I can press F. So F is going to fill a face, and you can see it's done that for both of them. So it's added a face inside the window there. Now you can see that this one looks fine, but you can see that this one is too far facing us, so you can't see the window frame. So I'm just going to go to 3 for face select this face. Let me just zoom. I'm actually going to go inside the house here. So I'll navigate inside the house, and then I'll press G and click with my middle mouse wheel. Just bring that out, and then just click to place that. And there we go. Now the shading looks a little bit weird. That's because again, we need to recalculate the normals and that one's messed up as well. So I'm going to tab into edit mode on the windows, press A to select everything, and then Shift N will recalculate the normals. And you can see it's not really doing anything, and that's because it's only one plane. So Blender doesn't really know which way to flip it. So you can just tell it to flip on the inside. So just click on that. We'll tab back into object mode, and now you can see that is the same shading as that. And if I go over here, this is also light and light. All right, so now let's just do the same thing for the door. So I'll click on this one, tab into edit mode. I'm going to press 1 or go to the vertex select. Just zoom in here. I will press Z and move my mouse over, and I'm just going to Alt and select this loop. I will press Shift D to duplicate and then right click so it jumps back. I'm going to press P so that I can separate that. I'm going to separate by selection, tab back into object mode with the tab key, and then just select this loop right here. Tab into edit mode, press A to make sure everything is selected, and then I'll press F, and F will fill that face. F is for face. And there we go. Tab back into object mode, Z to move my mouse back into solid, and there we go. Our house is looking really nice. So I just want to add a handle, a door handle, so we can actually go inside our house. So I'm going to click to place my 3D cursor right here. If you're using left click select, you're going to hold down the Shift key and right click to place your 3D cursor. And then I'll press Shift A. And this time I want to add a circle because a circle is pretty close to a handle. So I'm going to click on circle. And when we add the circle, you can see that it's giving us some different settings here that we can choose from. So the vertices here, this is how many vertices is around the circle. Now don't move the circle because if you move it, that's going to go away. So I'm just going to again press Shift A, add a circle. Now the vertices here, 32 is a little bit high and I don't really need it to be 32. That's just kind of too high. So I'm going to click on this vertice count, make it 8, and then click on enter. Now you can see that it looks a lot more blocky, but don't worry, we will smooth that out. So I'm just going to click on this to make it smaller. Now if I tab into edit mode, you can see that it's just added 8 vertices. Press S and scale this way down, and then zoom in here. I can also press period on the number pad to zoom in here. Just scale it down, and then I want to rotate it sideways. So I'll press R to rotate, X for the x-axis, type in 90 for 90 degrees, and enter. Okay, now I want to move this back kind of behind the door, so I'll press G, just manually move it back, and then I'm going to extrude out the handle. So press E to extrude, click with my middle mouse wheel, bring it up. Okay, and now I want to make a circular handle, and that's actually way too big. That handle is really thick. That would be really hard to get your hand around. So I'm going to double tap A to select everything, and press S and scale it down. Okay, just scale it down like that, and then click with my middle mouse wheel, and I need to press G and just bring it back in there. Okay, so now if I just hold down the Alt key to select this loop, just like we did before, Alt key, select that loop, just select kind of in the middle there. If you hold down Alt and select right here, it's going to select this one. But if you hold down the Alt key and select in the middle right here, like in between these two vertices, it'll select the circle loop right there on the edge. So now I'll just model out the handle. So I'm going to press E, and then immediately after that, press S and scale that up. And then I want to move it out a little bit. And I think this would be easier to do from top view. So I'll press 7 to go to top view, and then Z, move over, go into wireframe, and that way we can see the handle from the top looking down. So I'm just going to hold down the shift key and click with my middle mouse wheel and bring it over. And then I can press G, click with my middle mouse, bring it up. Okay, and then I'll press E and extrude, click with my middle mouse wheel, place it right there. And I want this to be just a little bit bigger, so I'll press S and scale it up a little bit more. And then once again, I'll press E to extrude, click with my middle mouse, bring that over, and then S, scale that down. I keep on pressing the W because it's right next to the E. E to extrude, click with my middle mouse wheel, S to scale it down, and then if I just move over here and press Z to move out of wireframe, you can see there's a hole right there. So to fill that, again, it's the F key. So F fills a face, and then I think that's just a little bit too far out, so I'll just press G, click, bring it back, click with my middle mouse wheel to constrain it to the X-axis, and then click to place that. Okay, tab back into object mode. So you can see there is our door handle. Now it's still a little bit too big, so I'll just press S and scale it down a bit, just like that. Okay, now you can see that it's really blocky. So to smooth it out, I press the W key, but you can just right click. So if you're using the left click select, you right click, and that's going to bring up the object context menu, and then you can just click on shade smooth. So on default, all of the objects are set to shade flat. And that's good for when we're modeling. But when you shade something smooth, Blender is going to try to do its best to smooth out any edges. Now, we don't want all of these to be shaded smooth, because if I select like these and shade them smooth, you can see that just looks really weird. There's some really weird glitches there, and you can't even really tell where the side of the house is. And that's because we don't have as many vertices right in there in the center. We're going to go over this in more detail in a later video, but basically just because there's so little vertices here, Blender is trying to smooth this out, but we want this to be a sharp surface. We want it to be sharp and then move over because it's a house. So I'm going to shade that back to flat. Now this handle here, I do want this to be shaded smooth. If I just select it and then press the period key to zoom in, if it's shaded flat, it kind of has a low poly look and I want it to be smooth. So I'll press W and shade smooth. Now if I zoom in here, you can still see that it does look kind of sharp. So there's actually a way to smooth out your mesh. So select the mesh, and we're going to be adding what's called the subdivision surface modifier. Now this modifier of all the modifiers is the most common. You're going to be using this for lots of things when you're trying to smooth something out. So over here on the modifiers panel, the wrench, click on add modifier, and I'm going to add the subdivision surface. And you can see what this does. It basically adds more geometry and it looks a lot smoother. But when we tab into edit mode, it's still using the low detail. So you can see if I just like select this, shift select this and move it, you can see basically what the subsurf does is it smooths it all out, and it takes the different vertices and it kind of equals it down. You can see if I pull this up, it's trying to smooth it out as much as it can. But because I'm pulling this way out, it's kind of sharp there. So you can actually make this detail level higher by changing the viewport levels and the render levels. So the viewport is whatever you're going to see in the view, and then the render is whatever it's going to render. So I usually turn these to the same value because I want what I see to be rendered. So right now the viewport is at 1 and the render is at 2. What I'm going to do is just click this arrow and turn that up. And now you can see, look how smooth that is. It's really nice. It's a lot smoother. Now you may have realized that doing this will often mess up the shape of the object, because you can see right here, because we only had one loop cut, if I just press Z and move over into wireframe, we had one loop cut here and then one loop cut here, and then we had this loop cut here. Now this loop cut to this loop cut, we only have one loop cut in between it, and so the subsurf is going to try to smooth this out. And you can see there it is, it's smoothing that out. But what if I want this to be sharper? Well, what I need to do is add more geometry to tell it what edges I want to be sharp. So you can see it's very smooth there. If I want this to be sharper, I can tab into edit mode. Let me just press Z and move my mouse over, and I can use Control R to add a loop cut. So remember earlier we used Control R. So if I press Control R, you can see it gives us a bunch of different options. I'm going to click right here. And then if I bring this over, you can see it's making it a lot sharper because now it has more geometry and the subsurface now has to go all the way down and then go over to the side. So I can just pull this over and make it pretty close to the other one. I don't want it to be right on it because that can add some modeling issues. So I just want to make it pretty close and then just click right there. So now if I tab back into object mode, you can see now that's a lot sharper because it has that second loop cut. Now the subsurface is going to go all the way down and then over to the side. So that is the basics of the subdivision surface modifier, and you're going to be using this modifier a lot. And later on in this tutorial series, we will be using this more, so you'll get more practice with this. Now, just two things really quick before we finish this video. You can see that the normals need to be recalculated because it's kind of dark over here and light over here. I'm going to tab into edit mode, press A to select everything, and then I'm going to press Shift N. And there we go, the normals are recalculated. And then one thing that I want to do just to finish up this video is I want to add a plane because this house is just kind of sitting in this giant world of nothingness. So I want to add a ground plane to have some sort of world for it to be sitting on. So I'll press Shift A to add an object, and I'm going to go to Mesh, and I'm going to go to Plane. And there we go, it's added a plane. I can press S and scale it up, just scale it up about that big, that'll be fine. And then the house is kind of stuck inside the world right now, so I will press G to grab, Z for the Z axis, just bring it down. And remember, you can also hold down the Shift key while you're moving it, and that will make the movements more sensitive. Just make it something like that, put it right there, click to place that, and there we go. I'll just press Control S again to save our project. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. So we finished modeling the house. So in the next part, we're going to be modeling the rest of the environment. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. You can click on the next part right up on the screen. Actually, it's probably going to be over there when it gets released. So click on the video right up there, and I will see you in the next part. Thank you for watching, and I will see you there.